Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Escoffier. Welcome to our live session today. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit on the summery side, an almond cake, and then we're going to be filling and decorating it with a blueberry cream cheese icing, which I think you guys are really going to like. It's delicious, it's refreshing, and keep in mind it's naturally blue in color. So it's great for some of these summertime holidays, and it's just nice because the blueberries are in season in summer. They pair very well with lemon and almond, but the icing that I'm going to show you today, you can use it with a lot of different cakes. I'm going to be doing some small cakes today. You can do large cakes, and this is also a very beautiful icing for the kind of the naked kind of iced cakes too. So keep that in mind if you're doing maybe a birthday cake or even a tiered cake. This is great, but the cream cheese icing is a little bit on the softer side, so it's not great for decorating. You wouldn't want to make roses with it. Just some basic piping. I'm going to be using a large star, so keep this in mind when you're using it for some of your cakes too. It's just not as decorator friendly as buttercream, but it has a beautiful flavor to it. It's rich, it's a little bit tangy, and this one is going to have a beautiful floral blueberry flavor along with the color too. So you can get some pretty vibrant colors with this. Okay guys, so I made some almond cake batter earlier, and we're going to be talking about this really quick. Okay, so like I said, you can pair this icing with a lot of different things. Even goes well with chocolate if you want to kind of be a little bit edgy, but I like it with lemon and vanilla. Okay, so for my lemon and almond and vanilla too. Okay, so for my batter that I made earlier, I used an almond paste, and I just picked this up in the store. Should be soft when you buy it. If it's hard, that means it's old, and it's a little pricey, but you could, like I said, use any cake. I love the flavor. I love the kind of the density that almond paste brings to cakes, and it's just a preference of mine, and I think that you'll like it too. Okay, so what I did is I creamed my almond paste with a little bit of my butter and my sugar. I let it cream, I let it break up a little bit because almond paste is a little bit thicker than butter. And then once it was creamed, I went ahead and added the rest of the butter and the sugar, and I creamed it until fluffy. I created some aerosols for leavening. Then I added my room temperature eggs, and then I added my sifted flour with a little bit of baking powder. So we've got baking powder to give it lift and volume, and a little bit of air too. So this is the batter after it's been finished. So it's just a basic creaming method batter. Always be sure that you are scraping down your bowl when you're doing any mixing. Once you add the flour, don't mix too long because that could cause some dryness and tunneling. I just had the flour. I added the flour to the fat and sugar, and I just mixed it until it was incorporated, and I kind of finished it off by hand a little bit. Okay, so this is beautiful. I think you guys are going to like it. We'll have a recipe for you, but it's a beautiful color, and it's a rich batter, and it makes a really nice cake. So for the small cakes today, I've got one of these pans that I wanted to use, but you can use anything. You can use a muffin tin, but these are typically, you'll see these in the store for making brownies, and they make great brownies and small cakes too. Okay, so it's a nonstick pan, but I always spray mine just to be sure, especially with cakes. Okay, if you're making larger cakes, we always recommend that you put a little bit of parchment on the bottom of the pan, and that ensures it's always going to come out, because we don't want any sticking. We just, we work so hard on our batters, we're waiting while the cakes are in the oven. Last thing that we want is our cake to stick. Okay, so as you can see, this is a shallow pan, so what I'm going to be doing is making some kind of thin cakes, and then we're going to stack them a little bit. Okay, so I sprayed the pan. When I use pan spray, I just don't spray it on my counter because it goes everywhere. I take the pan over to the sink, and I spray it over the sink. Some people spray over a trash can in a commercial kitchen because they're bigger, but I just always head over to the sink, and then I rinse it out, and then I don't get greasy pan spray all over everything. Okay, so I like to use a disher to scoop my batter in. Okay, so this is a 3/4 ounce disher. I like these because they're color coded, and I always know what size I'm using. You don't have to read like those little numbers on there. Okay, so I'm going to be doing about 1.5 scoops. Okay, Okay, I just found this to be a good size for me. So what I'm doing is I'm spreading this batter around the pan. It's a thicker batter. It's going to work its way into the edges, but I just want to have my batter even before it goes in the oven. Okay, so the way I came up with this amount is, I baked a few and then I decided I recorded the size that I made, how much batter I put in, and that's how I determined how much batter was best for me. So as a rule, when I do cupcakes or muffins, I always fill my pan a little bit under 3/4. This one is more like a little bit kind of halfway up. Okay, so it's really whatever you like, and your things they're yours, and you can customize them and personalize them. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and kind of spread this around. And this is how I prepared the pan. I just kind of sprayed this half so I could show you guys a little bit. And I'll bake these off later. Maybe I'll snack on if you want, I don't know. Okay. All right, so just, kind of take your time and kind of even out this batter. So like I said, it's going to spread, but I don't think it's going to spread too evenly if you leave it in like this. So kind of work it into the corners. It's, little going to come back. You're going to get some spring back because the pan was greased, but you can kind of work it in there. Just kind of take your time. Okay, all good things happen with time, right? Okay, so I'm baking these at 350 and I bake them for about 16 minutes. Okay, keep in mind if you're using a convection oven, you're going to bake at a little bit lower temperature, about 25 degrees. Okay, guys, so let's set these aside and let's go ahead and take a look at the small cakes that I baked off, the almond cakes. So I have some on the pan here. They release from the pan nicely. What's beautiful about using these nonstick pans, they're darker and you get some really nice browning. So these are the small cakes, okay? So I think that, maybe mine turned out about 1/2 inch high. They've got a little bit of doming, which we all know is common for cakes. You can trim this off, but I like to use mine with the doming so I can put a little bit thicker icing around the sides, and then it's not thick all the way through. What's beautiful about this is you can put toasted almonds on here before you bake it. You could even put some blueberries, kind of stick them in the batter too. You could even take some poached pears or some canned pears and line them up on top, and that's just a little bit of fruit, a little bit extra for the inside. So you can really, customize this with a lot of different flavors. Okay, so let's set these aside and we're going to go ahead and make our icing. Okay, so for the blueberry buttercream, the blueberry cream cheese icing, I'm off to buttercream already, I don't know why. Okay, so for the blueberry cream cheese icing, what I use to flavor the blueberry is I took some freeze-dried blueberries. Okay, these are perfect, and what I did is I put them in a spice grinder with some sugar and I pulsed it until it was, if you pulse it long enough, it's going to become powdered sugar and then you won't have any graininess. If you end up with a little bit of graininess and you leave your icing sit for a little while, those little granules are going to dissolve because you have a lot of hydration with the cream cheese and the butter. Okay, so this is what I used for the flavoring. I also made some blueberry jam. Okay, so what I did is I just cooked some blueberries on the stove with some sugar, a little bit of lemon until they became thick. Takes about 20 minutes, and then I cooled it and I added a little bit of this to my cream cheese icing because it gives it a little bit more of a purple color, and then you get some of those natural flecks in there too from the blueberry skins and the seeds too. So for me it's a little bit more natural, but if you want to go a little bit more refined, I recommend sticking with the blueberry powdered sugar made with the freeze-dried blueberries. Okay, I know that's a lot, like a really big sentence, but you'll see once we kind of get going a little bit. Okay, I usually don't use dried blueberries for any of my icings, and I just like to use my jam and a little bit of the freeze-dried blueberries. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at the kind of the pulverized blueberries. Okay, so these are the freeze-dried blueberries that I pulsed with some sugar. It became a blueberry powdered sugar, and that's going to be the foundation for my flavoring and my icing. And look, you can see it's already a really pretty color. Once it hits the fat, then it's going to really come to life a little bit. Okay, so I want to show you guys really quick how I made this. It's so easy. I have a little spice grinder here, okay? And as you can see, well, let me get it over here. Oh, hold on, guys. Okay, can you guys see that okay? Got it. These have a short cord on them, just so you know. Okay, so as you can see, I've been using this today because I made some sugar already. So I've just got some regular granulated sugar in here. And then I'm going to take some of my freeze-dried blueberries. They're very dry. These are really tart, so I'm not going to put too much in here because we want to have some sweetness along with the color. Okay, so I'm just kind of sprinkling them on top, and this is so easy to make. You could even do this with raspberries too, or another freeze-dried fruit. Okay, so we're basically making a blueberry sugar. Okay, guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this on, and then you can kind of see it kind of come to blueberry life, right? Keep going, and it's going to pulverize it even more, and it's going to become very fine like a powdered sugar. So, and look at how quick that was. If you don't have one of these little spice grinders, they're reasonably priced at the store, or you could even use a blender. But if you're using a blender, you're probably going to want to make a little bit more. Okay, so this is nice for small amounts, so that's why I use these. Or maybe you have like a little cup blender, so just try what you have before you go and buy things. You'll be surprised at what you have in your kitchen that's going to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this aside, and we are going to go ahead and make the icing. Okay, all right. Okay, guys, one thing that I'm noticing too is this brand of organic blueberries, okay, this one is a little bit more purpley in color. So this is the one that I usually use, and there's some other store brands, but this is my first choice. It's a little bit more, so you can use either, but that's just my little tip on blueberries. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and make our cream cheese icing. All right, so what I usually do is I've got my mixer with the paddle attachment. Don't use your whisk for this. These ingredients are too heavy and you could damage the whisk. You want to save that for making whipped creams and making meringues, those finer things that need much more air. So I've got my unsalted butter. Okay, and what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be creaming this with a little bit of my blueberry powdered sugar. Okay, so you can make it more concentrated if you want a more purple color. It's really what you want for your coloring, but this is going to be pretty bright once it gets going. Okay, so we're going to cream this together, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add our cream cheese that's at room temperature. So my butter is not quite at room temperature. It's partially chilled, and it's for me it mixes in a little bit better like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cream this. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's pretty purple. Okay, we're going to kind of let it go for a little bit. And I'm going to scrape it down in just a minute here. You can add more or even less depending on what color you would like it. But you can get a pretty vibrant color of purple from this, let me tell you. And some really good flavor too. It's sweet, it's tangy, it's got a little bit of a floral aroma. You guys are going to like it a lot. Okay, let me kind of scrape down a little bit. I've got some pieces of butter. I just want to help it out. This is kind of a big bowl, and I'm making a little batch, so it's going to take a little bit. But if you had a little bit more in here, it'd really kind of go quickly. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep creaming this until it's fluffy, until that butter is pretty much broken up, and then we're going to go ahead and add our room temperature cream cheese. Okay, so when you're making this cream cheese icing, just use regular cream cheese. Don't use the whipped cream cheese because we're kind of whipping it ourselves. Those whipped cream cheeses that you buy in the tubs in the grocery store, they have so much air in them and they're very soft and they're great for spreading on your toast and your toasted bagels. But for making these icings, just use regular cream cheese. And I don't recommend using low fat unless you're on a restricted diet. Just use the regular cream cheese and I think you'll be really happy with it. Okay, a beautiful color here. We could take it a little farther, go a little bit stronger, and I have some that I made earlier, and I'll show you kind of in comparison a little bit when we're done. Okay, so it's looking pretty good, becoming pretty creamy. Let's scrape it down one more time, guys, and then we're going to go ahead and add the cream cheese. But it's beautiful, it's delicious, and like I said, this is a kind of a delicious way to get some really pretty coloring. Okay, like I said, I like to add a little bit of jam too. It kind of, to me, it looks a little bit more natural. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, nice and fluffy. That's one thing about blueberry. It gets glue everywhere. Okay, let's go ahead and add the room temperature cream cheese. All right. It's really a delicious icing. Keep in mind it's softer. It's not going to behave like buttercream. You don't want to do buttercream type of decorating with this one. It's really flavorful. Okay, so we've got our cream cheese in. It's going to become a little bit lighter, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of jam. Be careful how much jam you add. So my jam is pretty thick. It's chilled. I cooked it on the stove, and then I pulverized it, and then I cooled it. So don't use warm jam in here because we know what happens with, warm and butter. It's going to just melt. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of jam, and you're going to see it's going to become a little bit natural looking. So what I usually do is I'll put like maybe a teaspoon and a half. If your icing is a little bit soft, then try chilling it before you pipe it. Okay. Okay, it's beautiful. See how it became kind of natural looking with those specks? That's kind of what I was going for, but you could, go either way. You don't have to add the jam. But it really got deeper in color. Okay, maybe you want to go with a little bit less color. It's, whatever you like. And, with summertime, sometimes we like these, red, white, and blue colors because we have all these summertime holidays, patriotic holidays, right? Okay, all right, guys. So it's looking really beautiful. And that's it. It's pretty bright. You can tone it down a little bit by using less of the blueberry powdered sugar or a little bit less of the jam. Okay. All right, so this is it. This is our blueberry cream cheese icing. So that was pretty quick and easy to make. And this one is a little bit bright. I think it might be as vibrant as the one that I made earlier. So Chef Susie must be looking for vibrancy today or something. All right, hang on for 1 second. Okay, like blueberry gets everywhere. Okay. All right, so here it is. I'm going to just kind of fold a little bit more. I've got a little bit at the bottom. I think this might be the same color as the one that I made earlier. I'm just thinking blueberry today. And maybe a little lighter, whatever you guys like. Okay, there it is. And you can see those speckles from the fresh blueberry. Isn't that pretty? Looks like fresh and natural. Okay, let me see that. I made one earlier. It kind of looks pretty much the same. Yeah, pretty much the same color. So Chef Susie went a little overboard with blueberry. That one's a little bit lighter. Okay, as it sits, it may become a little bit richer in color too. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill and finish a couple of our almond cakes. Let me clean up a bit. Okay, All right. Okay, so I'm just going to be using a pastry bag with a larger star, and like I said, you don't want to do any fine decorating with these cream cheese icings because they're softer and they're really flavorful. Okay, guys. All right. So this is, it's pretty firm. If it gets too soft on you, just refrigerate it for a little while and then give it a stir, and then just refrigerate it until it's the consistency that you're looking for. All right, let's go ahead and fill a couple of small cakes. Okay. All right, so you got a plate. You're going to fill them right on our plate. And what you can do with the jam, you can thin that down with some simple syrup, maybe not too sweet, and you can use that for sauce on your plate too if you like. Okay, so let's go ahead and put 2 of these on the plate. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get blueberry all over my thumb first. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do a little bit of piping. And these are pretty vibrant. You can tone it down if you want. So I kept the kind of the hump in the middle of the cake. You can trim it down, but I didn't want to have too much icing there in the middle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to invert one. Okay, looks pretty beautiful, doesn't it? They look delicious. Okay, okay, so what we can do is a little bit of cream cheese icing on top. And we can decorate these however you want. Like I said, you can do cupcakes, or you can even do larger cakes too, but I kind of like these. Okay, so what I'm doing is just a little bit of piping. You may have to hold on to it a little bit so it doesn't, it may just wobble. Okay. Okay, straighten it out. Then you can refrigerate these and they'll set up nicely for you too. Or you can just do a little bit of spiraling too. The icing is a little bit thick. You see a little bit of shakiness with my hand. Okay, so you can really, you can do a lot as far as decorations with these. What I have is, I have some little nonpareils. These are kind of fun. They stick to this nicely. So this is, fun, festive. You can really bring a lot of color to it in this way. And then you can also buy these candies, and they're called Jordan almonds. So these are kind of nice too. They complement this, and it looks kind of pretty and fun. Okay, so you can also put, a little bit of almond, a little bit of blueberry, and what's nice about this time of year too is we have, edible flowers. I had these from my garden, and they're called nasturtiums, and I've got a yellow one, and I only had a couple left, so they were really in full bloom a couple weeks ago, but there weren't too many. But there's also some orange ones too. These are really pretty. So edible flowers can be expensive when we buy them in the store, but we can easily grow our own. So I grow these every year. So the nasturtium looks nice on the blueberry small cake. Looks pretty beautiful there. And what you can do too is you can put a little bit of almond to complement it too, and maybe on your plate you can put a few little blueberries. You can even put them on top. Okay, so lots of different ways that you guys can present these. Okay, maybe a few strawberries for some color too. Like I said, we've got those patriotic holidays coming up, so this could come in pretty handy for that. Okay, guys, so these are our lemon, almond, and blueberry cream cheese small cakes, and thanks a lot for coming today, and we'll see you next time. Okay, guys, goodbye.